Arcane is brilliant. From the design to the soundtrack and especially to the characters, everything is handled with such care and artistic vision that it seems that the entire internet is praising it for its values. And I mean everyone. But before I go any further, here is a massive spoiler warning because I am going to be talking about the story and some of the harder hitting or more artistic moments, and there will be major spoilers. You're still here? Great. Now then, as a person with no prior experience with League of Legends or Riot Games at all for that matter, I watched a show because I thought the art style looks nice, and I heard that it was good, and that was really it. During the first 3 episodes, it looked like it would be a normal show with a group of kids fighting against a criminal underworld and the corrupt government with a different perspective following 2 scientists fighting for progress. Silco looked like just another generic bad guy who would hide around the corner cackling maniacally until the climax of the story where Jace and Victor would help buy Powder and the rest of the group to take them down and in the process prove Hextech's values to society. This isn't what happened. You know what happened. Instead, I was left speechless when Vander, Milo, and Clagger died by Powder's monkey bomb, Silco won, Jace and Victor proved themselves, and Vi and Powder were separated. And there were still 6 episodes left to go. They took a perfectly fine story setup, turned it on its head, threw it in an incinerator, and built the real story up from those ashes. And it was brilliant. Now, this is something I only experienced because I didn't watch any promotional materials or know that Jinx would have to grow up from Powder going into the show. Though Powder being more than willing to try to use nail bombs in a fistfight against street children was a little bit worrying in retrospect. Interestingly, the show really showed off the skill of its writers because the story works with or without this basic knowledge. What I mean is that they applied Hitchcock's concept of the bomb under the table, where the audience experiences greater tension when told that a bomb will go off under a table in 5 minutes, than they would when being surprised by the bomb, like these enforcers. In this case, the bomb is Powder killing everyone with an explosion and turning into Jinx, and while League fans didn't know when or how it would happen, it was probably anticipated. At the same time, they wrote a compelling narrative which had genuine hopes for viewers like me who didn't know that the story would go this way, and we got a full-blown tragedy. In both cases, the viewer experiences a large emotional payoff and wants to see more, with returning fans wanting to see the character they know and love, and new fans wanting to see what in the world happens next, what happened, why did they kill off all these characters, and all of those questions. This scene and everything leading up to it was brilliantly written to accomplish this and gets everyone interested in the characters no matter where they're coming from with this in terms of the series. Honestly, I thought the show was really good up to this point, but after seeing that scene, it really made me think that the show was something special. After the first 3 episodes, everything went off the rails, and the core of the story's build-up relied on having the characters develop towards a meaningful payoff, and they didn't fail here. The characters are the highlight of the entire series in my opinion, closely followed by the music design and the animation, which are both top-notch as well. For example, it could have been easy for them to keep Silco as a one-note, power-hungry kingpin who Jinx would turn on for manipulating her for an entire adult life, but he isn't. He loves and cares for her in his own twisted way, luckily in a father-daughter way. There were a couple scenes that have darker implications for their relationship, but they only serve to highlight how Silco's unconditional love for Jinx causes both of them issues. He stands by it even to the end, and even in situations like the ones I've been showing, which he really had no reason to do so. But he acts like a father. A terrible father who couldn't see how his advice was breaking her mind and causing her to spiral into an ever-deepening pit of depression, but a loving father who never abandoned her. The team didn't have to do this, but because they did, it really elevated the story. The same level of care and attention granted to Silco was given to almost every major character in the story, including Victor appearing to follow the bitter sidekick scientist trope who was in the shadow of his partner Jace throughout the entire story, only to be an exploration of coming to grips with his own mortality and humanity's attempts to escape it, including a beautiful scene of his science letting him run free for the first time in his life, only for it to take the life of his assistant when he tried to pursue greater progress for himself. The undeniable queen of this would probably be Jinx herself. This is probably because Jinx's development is one of the primary focuses of the story, and let's face it, villains often get the best arcs in the entire series no matter what. Jinx is shown from going from an emotionally troubled child to a traumatized adult who regularly commits massive war crimes. But she isn't just a crazy person with a firearm like a Florida man, which her in-game counterparts seemed to indicate when I did further research. Rather, her affection for Silco is as genuine as her conflicting emotions surrounding Vi and her mistake at the beginning of the series, which initially broke her into this mental state. This is probably a good time to bring up how Arcane uses the concept of show don't tell to bring itself to even higher heights and respect the viewer's intelligence to connect the dots on their own. Many of the scenes showing a character's internal issues lack the character explaining their thoughts themselves, instead relying on context clues and facial animations to convey emotions, with the notable exception being Jinx because she talks to the voices in her head, but in order to compensate for this, everything else speaks volumes. Especially in her hideout, where she has dolls of Milo, Clagger, in addition to Vi's favorite rabbit doll, and no character really mentions or draws attention to this. A few look at them or notice them intently, but it's never directly stated, and the viewer is just meant to understand why they are there and what's going on. It immediately tells the viewer that her current mental state is largely due to the influence of that one specific event and abandonment issues because she's still clinging on to her old friends. More than that, most of her explosive devices have this childhood theming about them, with her grenades looking like the little ones that she made as a kid with cute little faces, and her rocket launcher looking like her old stuffed shark toy, or even her bombing tags being based off the creepy monkey which killed her friends, which all points to her being stuck in the past when she used to be a child, and when things were better for her. Clearly Jinx needs therapy and a hug, but didn't really get it. Sadly, this is just the way the story is, but all of these details are conveyed visually to the viewer and add to the atmosphere and presentation of the scenes without having to take away from the scene itself to discuss them directly. The final thing I want to bring up, which I think encapsulates everything that this series is the climactic fight between Jinx and Echo on the bridge, which is probably the best fight out of the entire show, with amazing art direction, musical choice, and of course the story it tells of the relationship between the two troubled characters. It is far and away one of the most emotional and impactful moments I have ever seen in a TV series. As soon as it starts, they square up against each other and get ready as if they were playing the same game they played as children. When the music kicks in and the memories of their shared past playing the game comes back to them, and the art style begins to change to reflect this along with the attitudes shown on their faces of the characters. As they run in, Little Man dodges powder shots until at last one finally hits him and he loses the game. But then everything snaps back to reality, the music cuts out, the art style changes back, and the same sequence happens again in the same way, but Echo isn't hit, showing his growth and ability to predict the fight before it happened. This entire sequence was used to compare their shared past, how they used to be friends, but now they've reached the same place where they used to play, except now it's real. They are truly enemies, fighting in a life or death situation, but the childhood wonder is shown in this beautiful rendition before it all snaps back, and it is truly breathtaking. Following this, when Echo finally takes Jinx to the ground, he can't bring himself to kill her because he sees a little bit of powder still left in her eyes. But then, out of nowhere, Jinx decides to end it and kill them both with a bomb that she had hidden. It's an act of leaving behind the past that we were just shown and embracing the present in her current self. All of this is conveyed visually and it hits as hard as any emotional scene. I can't really praise it enough for how well it did this without bringing it down with mid-fight dialogue or a "I know you're still in there" speech. Instead, they allowed there to be emotional depth and beauty in the scene in a sort of tragic way, and really left an impact on many people, including myself. Really, I could talk about this series all day, and I think you could probably tell that. It really accomplishes everything it set out to do, and the results are a deep, moving, impactful story of class division, morality, exploitation, trauma, mortality, corruption, and all of this and more, which is handled beautifully in a thematic, visual, and auditorial sense. The characters blew me away, and I am excited to see what is in store for the next season, which will be coming who knows when. I hope they take their time so they can keep the same level of quality moving forward. Anyway, I hope you had a wonderful time watching this. If you liked it, then it would be nice if you could leave a like or maybe even subscribe. Anyways, have a wonderful day. Goodbye!